Welcome to the Lucidus podcast, where I explore everything because I believe everything is connected to everything else. So if you touch one thing, you touch all things. And if you've never read about Indra's web from the Indian philosophy, Eastern India, it's a bit like that. Each of those jewels, imagine a spider's web, and each of the nodules on the web is a jewel. And each of those jewels is us. And if you touch one jewel on the web, you touch them all. And I decided to do this podcast today because it's been 2 or 3 days and I've just had this nagging kind of do a podcast. But I was like, I don't have anything. It's the same story. I don't have anything to talk about, or I don't have anything prepared. I don't have anything prepared to talk about. And I was listening to something today, or maybe it was yesterday, and they said just something so beautiful. And I wish I could quite remember the gentleman's name, and he said, you need to stop trying to, it was an Eastern kind of monk of some kind. And he said, you need to stop trying to do someone else and just truly do yourself. And I watch other podcasters and different types of things, and I'm like, oh, I love how they do that. I love how they do that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, except for I start leaning too heavily toward that. And I lack, and then I doubt my own method, my own way. More and more, I sense that my way will always be a very authentic, spur of the moment way. Not that there's anyone else's isn't, but that I think my power comes from being me in the moment and sharing that. And why I say that is because often we see, and these are very powerful experiences as well, but we'll see someone who's done something difficult and they talk about their hard times that they went through. I don't know that many of them actually share the hard times, though. It's almost like they get through the hard times and then they talk about the hard time. And I thought I would like me and possibly others to have the courage to share the hard time. So it's not just, oh, I got through it, but it's, this is what my hard time looked like. And I think I've been doing that more and more. And I haven't done anything in the last few days because I've kind of been going through a little bit of a rough spell, and for good reason. But still, I was waiting until I got to my good place, right? So today I spent, 5 or 6 hours with my mom, and she has Alzheimer's or dementia. It's a little bit of, who knows which one. Anyway, she's been in an assisted care facility for 3-4 years. But she recently fell and broke her kneecap a few weeks ago, and we've been going through that. And now she has to wear this brace and use a walker, but she forgets. And so we sort of need to babysit her because the facility she's in is sort of a lower, we want to keep her in sort of a lower end facility so she has more freedom, which means during this time we need to step up our own care. So we need to try to convince her to leave the brace on her leg and to use the walker, blah, blah, blah. So I spent the day with her, and I was very involved with my father as he passed from Alzheimer's, and I have not been involved with my mother. And I don't know why. I just haven't felt called as much. And today was also a big lesson for me because I had a lot of dealing with my dad was a very painful process. But I didn't ever see a lot of myself in my dad. I didn't see a lot of qualities. And so his behaviors, both as a father, period, just as a person, period, I didn't see a lot of similar behaviors. And so when I was helping him during his Alzheimer's, I could almost like witness it more. And since I didn't see myself, I didn't have as much sort of judgment, which is interesting because I'm like 8 or 9 years later after he's passed. I see I have a lot more qualities of my dad than I realized, um, which is pretty interesting to me. Now I spend the day with my mom, and all I can see are qualities I think I have of my mom's. And I say that because I can also see so many ways I'm not like my mother, but, and I just detest these things about my mom. So, of course, for me to be afraid that I have them, and maybe I do, was really hard. So, I'm taking care of my mom today. And so, the podcast, why I decided to do this. I have found, said this before, one of the most powerful things for me is sort of to speak it, to speak what is kind of the kernel of the truth in this moment. And in speaking the truth, I bring it to light. And by shining light upon it, I allow it to begin to transform into something. Sometimes it's just shining the light on it so it can grow. In this case, I'd like to shine the light on it so I can transform it. So, a few things that I'm afraid of in me that I saw in my mom, and this isn't her Alzheimer's. These are things I've seen throughout her life. She has struggled so much to have any kind of relationship with anyone. She can be a very difficult person, and part of that is sort of this. I could call it a fear of other people, but I would say it's more like a paranoia. And I could say it was a mistrust, but again, it's more like an enormous distrust. And then I could say that she was not thoughtful, but it can verge on flat out cruelty. She can just be mean. And so her struggle with people and relationships and just having any kind of relationship, it was so front and center today as she just had an issue with everyone and everything. And she wasn't like this every day of my childhood. But I've seen it enough where I recognize it, like, oh yeah, this is how my mom could be at times. But now that I'm no longer a child and I am an adult, and I can stand back and go, wow, that's some pretty toxic behavior that I watched. And sadly, I think I've learned some of that. And why I say that, so I have another hearing for my trial tomorrow. And for the first time, I might go to the hearing in person. I've always watched the hearings through the closed caption TV. I've only been in the courtroom once, and that's when I had to testify. But I might actually go tomorrow. It just feels like that would be a powerful thing for me to go. Just go and sit and be in the watch and see the whole hearing process in person. How does this correlate with what I'm talking about with my mom? I've had this interesting, and again, I'm very ashamed to say this, but I want to shine light on it because I do want to transform it. I've had this interesting hatred toward people the last, I would say, I correlated it when I reported my rape, which is why I'm bringing that in. But I think it probably is, well, I think it stems from my mom, is what I'm getting at. Just this interesting, just this like angry hatred she has toward people at times. And it's so caustic and toxic. And there have been times in the last couple of years where I have hated people, like everybody on the planet, like 8 billion people. Like I just hate people. And I would say it's more so like this generalized hatred of people than, an individual. Although I have spent plenty of time hating my rapist. And that doesn't show up very much anymore, hatred of him in particular. It's more of just like a generalized hate. And I would say in the last, it's been ebbing, it's been receding. But I have blamed my hatred of people on my rape and a couple of other relationships I've had where the people were quite cruel. But seeing my mom today, I think the program was put in motion very young. And that I just have replayed it with people. And probably just literally set up scenarios so that maybe I could hate people. I don't know. I don't think I asked for my rape, certainly, but just, that's probably not even quite related to what I'm speaking about right now, which is just this strange hatred that is just so toxic and caustic. And spending the day with my mom, where at times it was just directed at me. There was an hour where we were outside in this sweltering August heat, and just wouldn't go in, and it was just, it was just all directed at me. And I kind of thought I was okay. I was like, whatever, she's just being her, she's just being her. And then we were just on the sidewalk out by the street, and then a car is slowly driving by, and she's like whistling and screaming at him, help, help, help. It's just like, oh my gosh. So it's this minivan pulls over, and this nice woman and her son get out, and they come running over like, are you okay? And I'm standing right there, and are you okay? And I said, and I just realized immediately that these people were here to make sure that this older woman was okay. And I just said, I'm her daughter, and she's confused and upset. And then I just took a few steps back. I thought, I am not going to these people are going to do whatever they're going to do. And so it took and I was I was fine with them, because they were like, they really grilled my mom, like, who are you? What do you know? Who is this woman? And of course, my mom just said, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know who she is. I don't know who I am. Where do you live? I don't know where I live. And she had this big, huge brace on her leg. Why do you have this brace on your leg? I don't know. Well, how does your leg feel? I don't know. Is there anything you want to talk about? I don't know. Like she couldn't. So they quickly realized it was a woman that literally couldn't answer a single question. And so I probably was not beating her. She was just, so anyway, and they're like, can we help you inside? I don't know. Anyway, so what I'm getting at is I was the recipient. Okay, this is what I was going to get at. So as the woman left, the woman and the son, my mom had kind of calmed down with just all this, this strange person stopping and talking to her. She'd sort of settled down. And so when she calmed down a little bit, the woman and the son said, okay, we're going to go now. Can we give you a hug? And she's like, yes. They give her a hug. And then the woman just stepped over and gave me a hug. And I was like, I don't need a hug. And I just give her a hug. And then she just took me by the arms and said, she just said, I'm sorry. And I just about broke down right there. Because in that moment, I realized this is so incredibly shitty. My mom has turned her hatred against me before. It's not the first time. So that's pretty shitty. That's pretty shitty. But then to be, playing it out, again and again at the end of her life. And now it seems like she can't even control it. It was just the kind of the whole hideousness of the moment hit me. And of course, as they drive off, my mother looks at me, and I think she said, why are you can't go away? Again, just said something about, I don't want you here. You need to go away. And I was like, of course, I can't go away. I literally have to babysit you today. So anyway, so this hatred that my mom can spew, I've had moments where I've spewed it myself. Mostly, I'm just here just trying to defend myself now. Mostly in private. I'm pretty good about keeping it. I don't know if that's any better, right? I speak all the time about we live in an energetic universe. But, I try to keep it not in people's faces. But there's definitely been moments where I've been hateful and said hateful things to people. And I'm really sad about that. The people that are close to me, when that's happened, I've apologized to when I felt like it was really completely unwarranted and I had done something wrong. So this is me doing a podcast. I don't even know what I'm going to call this one. Literally Shelly rambling. So that's one of the things for me. So as I was driving home today, I just had a talk with the universe on the way home and just said, look, I'm ready to be done. I'm ready to take this I call it program. This program that I was handed as a child about hating people. So here were the three things I really saw in my mom was her hatred, like just this hatred, and she directs it at people, but she can direct it at situations or other, but just like this seething hatred, and I just, that's. I don't. None of my siblings watch my podcast, but I will put a caveat here in case they watch it one day. This is my experience. This is my experience of my mother. So, and when I feel like it, I will talk about all her wonderful parts too. Right now, this is me working through my struggles. So there was that piece, and then another piece that really became clear was I don't know if my mom has ever felt home as herself and in a home. She just was never quite able, and she had a traumatic childhood. I mean, there's reasons, there's reasons for that, but that also is something I've struggled with. And then the third piece, which is different than the hatred, and it's like this paranoia, which and I use that word because it's like seems bigger than fear to me, but maybe it's not. But she's just sure everybody's out to get her, or someone is out to get her. Someone is out to get her. And again, I can see why she may have that from her childhood. And there was a nurse's aide there, just this small, little, quiet young girl, and my mom was ready to just punch her because she was new. My mom didn't know her, and she was. But again, I would like to say I'd never seen that before, but I've seen it my whole life. Yes, her Alzheimer's and dementia is exasperating these things. And sadly, that may be my gift, is it's like magnifying some of these parts of herself and kind of giving me a jolt and looking at them. So on the way home, those were the three things I told the universe. Like, I feel like I've been handed a program where there's like this hatred toward people. And I've seen it sometimes in myself, and I'm ready to hand that program back and write a new one. And also sometimes this fear and paranoia about people that they are kind of out to get me. And again, I've blamed that on the rape as well. And I'm not saying that isn't part of it, but I definitely could see how that program could be written very young as well, and the rape may have just exacerbated that. And now I can remember the third piece. So I just want to pause here and say, I'm now trying to do a podcast, and my goal was not to do a podcast because I don't think that's actually where I'm best. I was originally laying on the couch, and I was just going to film this of me laying on the couch, but my battery was dying, so I had to come in here and plug it in. I thought, well, I'll just sit on the floor and try to make it as casual as possible. Because I want to share a process. Like, what does it actually mean to share a process so that people can see someone else's process and know that theirs may not be anything like mine. It's not that, and it's not that my process is right, but it's that people go through life. We have processes through life, and and that's okay. Okay, so back to the three things I said to the universe on the way home. Okay, so one of them was the hatred. One of them was the paranoia. Oh, and the third one was, I have a belief, and I saw my mom doing this, where she'd be like, those we'd be like, we're walking through the living room area, and she's like, those people over there, like, they never talk to me, and if I look at them, they look away. And I thought, she's so sure that nobody likes her or pays attention to her or wants to talk to her, that they don't after a while, because it's just so unenjoyable. And so that was the third thing. I was like, I want to give back my belief that people don't like me and I can't have healthy, meaningful relationships. Which is funny because I've had them in the past. And oh, this was the other thing, and I hadn't. Okay. This was another thing that I realized. I realized so many things with my mom today. It was just like this constant download of seeing things. And we were talking, and I realized, and I did say to her, I said, you trusted the wrong people. So my mom chose to trust, but she doesn't trust the right people. Like, it's like she put her trust in the people that were not going to be trustworthy. But then she doesn't trust the people who are, or who were. And I've done a bit of that, which now I just pretty much don't trust anybody. Which, I said that to my mom. I said, I think, because when she was kind of attacking the new person that was working there, I was like, it's okay. Like, you can trust her. And she goes, no, I can't. She's like, no, I can't. She's going to judge it. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, what is this? But I understood when you trust the wrong people, it's hard. It's hard to trust yourself, to know who to trust. And I think I was talking to my son the other day, and I told him, I said, I don't really know that you can trust anybody. You can't really trust anybody, because everybody, if you care about anybody, then they have the capacity to hurt you. So you can't trust someone and be like, they're never going to hurt me, or they're never going to lie to me, betray me, deceive, whatever. Like, absolutely 100%, everybody's capable of it. You just never know. And I told him, I said, I'm more and more getting to the place where I trust myself that I'm going to be okay. Meaning, when I'm ready, and I'm not yet, but when I'm ready to step back into my friendships, I pretty much isolated myself in my new house, except for my kids and a couple of new people anyway. But when I'm ready, I trust myself that I can take care of myself in relationship with others, even when they do whatever they're going to do. Because there's no way I'm going to be able to identify, exactly. You can get a pretty good guess on who's trustworthy and not trustworthy, but there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee. And so, but seeing that in my mom, how she trusted the wrong people, and that caused her to just not trust anybody. And then, of course, there's no relationship without some level of trust. So that's a big thing that's been going on, and 3 things that I really, 3 programs I'm handing back to the universe and asking for the wisdom and the experiences to code new programs. Healthy, whole, joyful, meaningful programs. And that may sound very cute to say, or nice and tidy. And I don't say it, and I didn't say it lightly. It's not cavalier in any way, because I know when I've asked for this in the past, it's come. And I found it in the past very difficult to rewrite programs. It was like rewriting a whole new person, right? Like parts of you literally have to die. And same thing, I'm sure that will happen here. Although I have to say, this time when I said it, it almost felt like, and I said these words when I was driving in the car, just having my talk with the universe. I said, I almost feel like I have already written these other programs, and I just need to put these old ones offline, and the new ones will just naturally begin running and emerge. And I say that because there have been a few instances, I would say like in the last 3 weeks, where I have engaged with mostly strangers, but I have engaged with strangers in just kind of in a very spontaneous way, whatever circumstance I was in, where there was this, I was really present and clear and connected and joyful. And I could tell when we were parting ways with the person, they were like, oh, my day is better. My day is better for having connected with me. And I wasn't trying to make their day better. It was just like this natural, just like joyfulness and just ease of working out the situation. And then we went our ways. I'll never see them again. Never seen them before. And I remember that part of me from a long time ago. And what I remember is that a lot of people have wanted to own that part of me, or they wanted to destroy, or they wanted to devour, but few people are able to see and experience that part of me and not touch it. And so for me to begin to let it out and to be fully seen and known and let others experience the power of that just sort of joyfulness and just appreciation and also there's like this kind of charming wit. I have this wittiness about me that I've forgotten, this very cleverness, but in a very joyful way. So it'll be interesting for me it's interesting for me to watch that come up. And that's where I say, so going back to my mom, sharing these parts of me, these programs that sadly I wish my mother had been able to see and rewrite. It might be a little too late, but I don't know. I don't really understand what the process is when you lose your mind, how much sort of transformation can still occur. Before she passes, I do hope that my dad was such a beautiful man when he passed. I mean, his heart was so open and kind and loving. I've never known anything like it to this day. And I would wish that for my mom. I really do. I'm not sure that that's the path she's on, and that's not up to me. I definitely would like to die more like my dad. I would like to live. I would like to live as my dad was when he died, which is a pretty tall order because like my dad literally had to lose his mind, like lose his whole sense of self in order to be that way. I don't know how you maintain a sense of self and still live with such an open heart. I do believe it's possible. I kind of don't need to set my bar quite that high. Just a little better than I am right now would be pretty good. Meaning just establishing just beginning to establish some relationships. Oh, and then I'm looking for a roommate to share my home, which is a big deal because this is my first home in many years, and I just don't want to invite anybody in. It's pretty special and sacred to me. I'm just loving being home and having a home, and it's just I've spoken about it before, but I don't know if I actually have spoken about it much with y'all, but I've spoken about it a lot to myself. But not having a home makes you mentally ill. I mean, it's hard I know a lot of people have made some choices to end up in a homeless situation, but it's exacerbated to the nth degree by homelessness. Like not having a home is so devastating to the psyche. to the heart, to just everything. So anyway, for the rest of this lifetime at least, my heart will go out to anyone without a safe, stable home. Just breaks my heart. Breaks my heart. Always sending love to those people. And notice I said safe as well. So you can have a home that isn't safe, and that's not home. I've experienced that as well. So anyway, so I've had a few people inquire about here or the home, and just in the little bits, I haven't actually met anyone, because in the little bit of exchange we had, I just realized like this is not the person I want living with me. So there's another one I'm going to meet on Saturday. We'll see how that goes. It sounds promising so far. We'll actually see if we meet and talk. So there's that, and then and then maybe going to the trial tomorrow. And that, again, I say that it's interesting because when I talk to the new attorney and my victim advocate, or I talk to people, they're like, you're just so strong and da-da-da. And I just think, if you could feel what I feel inside when I talk about it and when I think about it, you would still say I'm courageous. I mean, that's fine. But I don't think you would just say it sort of just like oh, you're good. I'm just going to say, it is, it's like climbing Everest again. I know I said, when I spoke at the trial in January, I called that my Everest. And I never thought I'd have to do it again. And I'm realizing I kind of do. I never wanted to do it again. I don't think it will be as hard. It will still be very hard. It may be equally hard, but I know I've done it. And so that removes some of the doubt, which is actually a ton. So I would say it's just as hard, to think about doing it again. So to think about going and sitting in the courtroom and just seeing the attorney and the rapist and the judge in the room and just feeling it again. Like I said, I have only been in that room once. It's no small feat. And I have to say, the Olympics are happening right now, the Summer Olympics. And it's just been so inspiring to hear those stories of the ones, they're all fabulous, but the stories of the ones who have had to step away from their love, their art, their craft, due to some struggles with their mind or their heart, or maybe even maybe even the body, but just who have had to step away and fight through some of their own hurdles and then come back and face it head on. And that's a little bit how I feel going to the courtroom tomorrow. It's like going back to the gym after, some kind of serious injury or something devastating, and just feeling it again, and just continuing to write a new program. I am safe. I know how to be safe. I know how to take care of myself. No, there's no guarantees in life, but I continue to show up for myself, and I'm really proud of myself for that. So, and then the job thing has been really interesting for me in that I've interviewed for so many jobs. I've turned some down, haven't gotten some, and I just continue to try to feel my way towards the job where it's a good balance, meaning whatever job I get right now, I'll be working as I go through this process with the trial, and they will know about it. I wouldn't try to hide it because I couldn't. There'll be times where I'll need time off, or definitely around the trial. I'm sure I'll need a few days before and after the actual trial, which is 2 days. So anyway, so it's also been interesting for me as I've interviewed when it got to the point where I felt like I needed to share what was going on so they knew. And still the judgment I feel from, and again, I have no idea. Everyone's been very professional about it, but the judgment I feel, the the shame, or like I'm not as good, or I'm like the scarlet letter, I'm somehow tainted or less than or broken because of it. And that's not true. There have been a couple of programs, or a couple of positions specifically that were like, and I'm still interviewing for both of those, that have been like, we actually value that you did that and are doing that, and that shows us a lot about your character, and like that makes, in our eyes, that makes you better. Like you're a candidate that's, we know, has a lot of commitment and tenacity and da 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 da. So but it's been interesting for me to step away from some, let others fall away. I think some of them have stepped away because of it. They were unsure how to handle it, or to believe that I could handle it, which I don't know, because half the time I wonder if I can. So I'm like, and so if somebody doesn't believe in me, I just kind of go, that's okay. Look, I'm just working on believing in myself. So like, if you don't want to believe in me, that's all right. I'm enough. Like, anyway, so the job hunt, that's also been really fascinating. And I've been spending a ton of time writing. And I know I said I would record, or my son will record that first chapter of my book. But I have to say, as I've been diving into it again, like I said, I wrote most of it in South Carolina in 2020, 2021. And I was like, oh, it's a piece of cake. Like, I just got to go revise. But the story is just unfolding in deeper ways. And it was interesting because when I wrote it, I thought, I don't think I'm mature enough to write this story yet. But I was like, but it's so great. Like, it's a great story. And now I realize that I was not mature enough. I have had not even begun to find my voice in South Carolina because I hadn't even dared report the rape. And I still think I'm finding my voice, and there's more and more to find as I go through this. And not that finding my voice will end when I finally testify, but that'll be a big shift in my life. When I walk, whatever the outcome of that trial, I know that I get to walk out and live without that weight on me anymore. And that I did all I could. And that's going to feel so good. And that's what I tell myself when it really starts to weigh heavy. I just say, I get to walk out. Doesn't matter what happens. And the freedom of having done what I felt called to do is freedom, is true freedom, is true peace. So, anyway, so I've been writing a ton, and a couple of things, I forgot how much I love to write. And the creative process is just fabulous. And just the imagination. I mean, just the coolest things come, and it's just, and the characters start speaking to me, and it's just so fabulous. So love it. I also forgot, it is so hard. It is so hard to like sit down, day after day and just sit. And it's because some days it's just like, it's a flood and it's so fabulous. And then other days it's like you get like 3 lines written and you're like, why did I sit here? What was today all about? So writing. And we haven't recorded it because my son, he's a beautiful editor, and he's been helping me, edit that chapter and then write a couple more, because I don't think one chapter is really enough. I think he and I will take turns. There's a narrator in the book, and I think I'll read the very short chapters, the narrator. I think I'll read those and then have him read the story, and we'll do it, 2 or 3 of those, and that's what we'll post. So working on that. I think I mostly just wanted to share my story, share my journey. I'm trying more and more to share it in my way. and not turn at least my part, or at least allow. So what I'm starting to see is I think I'll, at least for the foreseeable future, I'll have a podcast where I might have more like formal things to share. I definitely want to continue to have these impromptu where I'm just sharing the process so that people can see that they don't just hear that there's a process, or they don't read words that are like nice and orderly, but like the process of life is chaotic, especially when it's you trying to figure out your own process day after day. And that's what I want to share is whatever your process is, it's a process. It's a process. It's not straight lines on a page that tell you how to do it. It's not a perfectly crafted podcast. It's messy. It's whatever it is. It's talking to the universe on the way home after babysitting your 81-year-old mother for 6 hours and seeing things you don't like about yourself, right? Like, I don't think anybody says this is the process. It just is, or it's just mine. Anyway, so sharing the podcast, and then I'm enjoying doing the 3 questions with people. It's teaching me a lot about listening, first of all, just how attuned I need to be every moment to whoever my guest is, so that I can track and follow and address whatever they're about to bring up. And then also just the joy of having people I know share stories with me I've never heard, or parts of themselves I didn't know. And I mean, I've known some of these people a long time, and I was like, where has that been hiding? So and I love that everyday people have such great wisdom. Really, truly, truly. I love that. That makes me so happy. And I love to give people a place to share their voice and to see that they're beautiful. Everybody that's done it has been like, that's me. That's me. They enjoyed it and liked it. So I'll continue that. So I see my podcast and I'm still going to share my stories on my podcast. So I think my podcast is literally going to be what I've always said, which is everything. It's just going to like have like some of everything in it. And I'm okay with that. I've always been a person that was very dynamic and had a lot of different facets. So it makes sense to me that that's how this would be. So I don't know what I'll call this, but I just, as I just kind of think and feel about, the one person that's out there listening to this, I guess I just want you to know that your journey is beautiful, and it's perfect in all its chaos and all its magic, and that you can just relax. You can just relax a little bit and rest into it and rest on it. There's more support here than I realize, maybe more support than you realize. And even though I may not be able to see you or hear you, that we're in this web and that your jewel is shining beautifully in the night sky. And if you look around, you'll see a lot of the rest of us smiling back at you. And we see your smile. So it's getting dark outside. I don't have a light on. So I'm going to say goodnight, and I truly love you all. And it feels like a huge relief to let go and give back that hatred that's somehow been feels like it's been manipulating me. So I'm glad to feel the freedom to love again and to be kind again and to care. So y'all take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.